The relation between pragmatics and ordinary language is of utmost importance, and we need to see how it started to evolve in the past. Along with Grice's work, there were other Oxford philosophers which were working in the field of pragmatics, and they were trying to develop certain theory about the meaning in conversation or cooperation, or in other words, in ordinary talk. One of the popular names in this regard has been of Austin, J.L. Austin, who worked on speech checks, and in this regard, he initially developed a group of philosophers. He organized them, and they started working on the philosophy of ordinary language. They developed the method of investigation, which was initially known as linguistic botanizing. And this method was based on the assumption that what people do with language, especially in the ordinary language, that has a philosophical underpinnings, and that must not be ignored. So people working in the field of linguistics should focus on the philosophies of ordinary language and how ordinary language operates in social spheres. These philosophers were drawn into thinking about questions such as what saying or stating involves, what actually constitutes saying or stating, and similarly, what else speakers do with language, what kind of social actions can be performed by treating language in a special or specific way in a social interaction. Grice's theories of conversation meaning and Austin's theory of speech acts probably are different answers to these questions. So there has been multiple other answers or theories which emerged in pragmatics so far in order to answer these basic questions. Other philosophers who have been popular in this Oxford school of philosophers, especially in relation to pragmatics, were Strawson, Umson, Hare, and Stewart, Hampshire. Strawson was probably more known for his work on presupposition, and he reinvented the knowledge about presupposition already available to us, and he worked further on it. And how we have presupposition in pragmatics these days is largely attributed to Strawson. He also criticized Austin's conception of speech acts. Austin was more interested in speech acts as social facts because he thinks that what we say creates certain kind of speech acts. For example, if I say, please bring me a glass of water, so it's not just a statement, it's a kind of request. So the social fact or speech act of this statement is a request. So he also pointed that there are conditions that have to be met in order to perform a speech act. And those conditions are felicity condition. For example, if you want to perform a speech act successfully, you need to have certain conditions. As I said, if I say, please bring me a glass of water, there should be the conditions necessary or the conditions enabling this to happen. But if there is no water, no glass, or no such situation where a glass of water can be brought to me, probably this speech act would never be performed. So in order to produce successful speech acts, we need to look into the felicity conditions, also into the intention of the speaker, that he wants this action to be performed or not. According to Strawson, Austin's this interest led him to neglect some important point, that many speech acts are not in this sense social, because it's very difficult to develop facility conditions for certain speech acts, or certain speech acts may not be analyzed the way Austin might have proposed them. A more Gricean view in that what is important for successful communication is the recognition of the intention of the speaker. That if a speaker intends an action to be performed, it would probably be performed. If he doesn't have that much sincerity, that action may not be performed. For example, if a speaker utters a certain interrogative statement, he may not be interested in saying that as a question statement, or rather he might want to convey another situation or another meaning. And let's assume if a boss asks his subordinate, what is time by your watch? This may not be a question about or a desire to know the time at that particular moment. It may probably or could possibly be about an indication or pointing out about the late coming of that particular employee or subordinate. So when we say what is time by your watch may not necessarily demand an information about the time. Rather, it may be an indication or a warning about late coming at a certain place. So therefore people might say something or may mean differently. Therefore, we need to see that pragmatics has to do with ordinary language and various aspects of this ordinary language, which kept on developing the overall picture of today's pragmatics.